Hi, this is the norming video for 5th grade writing, the constructed response for Common Assessment 1. My name is Monica Warren and I will be walking you through the constructed response question and some of the answers you might come across. Specifically, we'll be spending a lot of time looking at the rubric for a narrative composition. So the first thing that you'll notice when you open up the exemplar response or when you open up one of your scholar responses is this picture, a little note, and then the prompt, which asks scholars to write about a time when their talent, gift, or skill helped them to achieve something. So what I would recommend when you first get started is you may see a scholar response that looks something like this. The first thing that I would recommend is at the very top up here, you write the 3 parts to the rubric, which is organization, ideas, and conventions. And so what this could look like is that you note at the top something like this, OIC. And this is what it would look like when you first get started doing it. So OIC, organization, ideas, and conventions. So when you first get started, you'll want to take a look at your scholar response and read through it first time pretty quickly to get a gist of what they're writing about. So what is their special skill or talent? When did they use it to work hard or to achieve something? So read it through the first time to get a gist of what the writing sample is about. And then read through it a second time to really dig a little bit deeper. So the first time I wouldn't recommend that you annotated it anyway, but maybe the second time is when you start circling things like this is misspelled or this should be indented or other things that you might want to look at later when you look at the rubric. So once you've read through it a couple times and you have the OIC at the top and you're ready to start grading, what you'll want to do is come down and find the rubric for narrative compositions. So it looks like this. And so there are 3 parts to the rubric. I've actually written on this one and given you some guided questions. But you'll see over here it's organization or the progression of the ideas, the development of the ideas, and then the last part, the conventions, which are the OIC that you wrote on the scholar's paper. This rubric comes directly from TEA. It's what we use to grade narrative responses, specifically with 4th grade when they get STAR tested, but it works very well for both 3rd and 5th grade as well. So each section, for example, the organization part, it is worth anywhere from 1 to 4 points, and then scholars will get 1 to 4 points on organization, 1 to 4 points on ideas, and then 1 to 4 points on conventions. So overall, they aren't necessarily getting 1 score for the paper, but they're getting 3 different scores for the 3 components of the paper. So after you've read a scholar response, the next step would be to really dive into the rubric. And so what I'm going to do for you is talk you through each of the rows of this rubric with the guiding questions. These guiding questions are very helpful to understand all of the wordiness that is given in the rubric. And then there's also some things that I've underlined or that are bolded, so those may help you as well. So when we talk about organization, organization involves many things, so it's the most dense part of the rubric. You'll see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 different rows that are indicators for how well a paper is organized or how well a paper progresses through its ideas. So the very first row is all about, is this written as a narrative paper? And so you'll see the guiding question is the composition written as a narrative? Now, that's usually a yes or no question, and that's where there's some flexibility, and you'll really want to make sure that you've read through the paper, especially if you are trying to decide, for example, between a 2 and a 3 or a 3 and a 4. For the most part, a 1 is going to be no. The composition is not written as a narrative, or it's really inappropriately written as a narrative. A 2 may be a yes, like yes, it is kind of written as a narrative, but it's a little bit maybe not as appropriately written, or it doesn't exactly respond to the prompt the way that it should. A 3 or 4 generally means yes. Yes, the composition is written as a narrative. What you'll find is that a 4 should be really hard to get. So a 3 is yes. Yes, for the most part, this is a composition written as a narrative. It is responsive to the prompt. In order to get a 4, it must be very skillfully. It skillfully shares the experience. It's very responsive to the prompt. And you'll find that to be true for all of the rows of this rubric, is that a 4 kind of takes it to that next level. Like, what is that step up, a step above what is just adequate. So next row of the rubric, and one thing that will help, I'll go back real quick to the row, is once you've decided, okay, this scholar's paper is a 3, you'll kind of note that it's a 3 either by circling it here or by just sort of noting it. So 3-4 narrative. Is it organized into paragraphs from beginning, middle to end? So that's what this next row asks. It doesn't have to be exactly 3 paragraphs beginning, middle, and end, but does the author of the paper, the scholar, really show that they understand how a paper should be divided up? Is it not just one big long paragraph, for example? So to get a 1, it really, maybe it's because the writing is given to you in a random order, or it's not really evident that they understand how to use those paragraphs. Maybe a 2 would be if they write 3 paragraphs, beginning, middle, end, and they're somewhat suited and they're okay. Really, to get a 3, the paragraphs that the scholar uses are clearly conveying the experience. And like we were saying before, to get a 4, you have to skillfully convey the experience. So it's not just that, yes, they wrote in paragraphs, so they automatically get a 4. It's, did each of those paragraphs seem very, very, and were they very intended for the purpose of now as a new thought? Was it very skillfully conveyed and very well suited to that part of their story? The next part of organization has to do with the details being focused on topic. So you'll see the basic question, are the details focused on the topic? So for this narrative, remember the prompt is that they tell about a skill they have and how that has helped them achieve something. And so really, all the details should be focused around the experience, because it's a narrative prompt asking them to write about not just about their skill, but also about when it helped them. So for a level 1, they would maybe write something where a lot of the details don't contribute to the narrative. Maybe they write about how they are good at math, but then they start talking about how good they also are at soccer. That would not be very focused. So that would give a level 1. A level 2 would be that some of the details don't contribute, so it may get a little bit confusing or limit how coherent the narrative is. For level 3, this may be, this is where, you know, it's pretty unified. If there are any lapse in focuses, they're not very frequent, and it's very adequate. Like, yes, all the details have to do about being good at math and how that helped the scholar at some point in their life. In order to get a level 4, the way that the details are written really has to strengthen the focus of the experience. So not just that it's adequate, but that it really strengthens, and every single detail adds to the story. And then for this last row, it's all about sentence by sentence progression. Does it move forward sentence by sentence? And I underlined some words that really stuck out to me for this rubric. To get a 1, you may experience, like, you know, there's a lot of repetition. Like, they're talking about how good they are at math, but they just keep saying that they're good at math over and over and over again. They're not showing me by giving me a story, or maybe there's some serious disruptions where it's hard to follow because of the sentence by sentence progression. To get a level 2, the writer would, maybe it's inconsistent or just like the sentences are weak. So for a 5th grader, they should be writing in a variety of sentences, not just very basic, I am good at math. I am good at math because math helps me blank. They would really have to switch it up. So they would get a level 2 if it's just a very weak way that they're presenting their sentences. To get a level 3, and these are the 2 words that stuck out to me, they have sufficient sentence-to-sentence connections. They have varied sentences, and the transitions are meaningful. In order to get a level 4, the sentence-to-sentence connections really need to enhance the movement of the narrative. So not just that they're there and they help, but like they really enhance because of the specific phrases and transitions and types of sentences that that scholar is using. So if you take a look back at organization, so once you've read through this and you've determined that a scholar is at, let's suppose, okay, level 3, level 2, and a level 2. Once you've done that for organization, what you want to do is find roughly the average of all 4 of those. So if you give a level 3, 2, 2, and 2, on average, they're organizing their paper at a level 2. So you would award 2 points for organization. If you give, for example, a 4, a 2, and a 3, that would roughly average out to in between a 2 and a 3. So always go with the lower amount. So that would be a 2. And also there were 2 indicators that were in the level 2 for that scholar. If there is a 3, and a 1, and a 1, you can award a level 2 for that one. So then what you would want to do is go to that scholar's paper, and you would want to write into the top what they were awarded for organization right here. So you wouldn't give it for every single line of the rubric, but just overall for organization. So ideas and conventions are quite a bit easier than organization. So if you go down to the next page, you'll see ideas. There are only 2 things you need to ask yourself with ideas. One is about the details, and then the next one is just, is it an interesting narrative? Was it fun for me to read as this scholar's teacher? And so their details really meaning like, do the details push the ideas forward? And does it convey how important the experience is? And so again, underline some important words. So maybe the details are inappropriate here. Here, maybe the details are very surface level. So they say that they're good at math, and the only way that being good at math has ever helped them is by being a really good student in math class. So that doesn't really convey what experience is so important and why it was so important to them. A level 3 would be that it adds some substance, and then a level 4 would be that the details really contribute very significantly. And every detail matters. So to get a level 4, there's not one stray sentence that gives a detail that isn't aligned to that narrative's prompt. The next line, just very basic, does it address the prompt, and is it interesting? So a lot of times what we'll find with a level 1 is that they either never really address the prompt. One really good example for this prompt is if a scholar writes an entire paper about how good they are at soccer, but they never actually write a story about how that helped them achieve something, they would only be weakly linked to the prompt. They're not actually answering the prompt, so they would get a level 1 for that. They may also get a level 1 if they write a story that's not very realistic. So how they are really strong, so they fought sharks. Probably not a very realistic situation that scholar has ever been in. And so they would get a level 1 for that. For level 2, this is, it's kind of interesting. It does answer the prompt, but it's just very basic. Maybe it's very formulaic is something that you may see, like, very beginning, middle, and end, and like very structured, and kind of they sound like a robot when they're writing, and that would be a level 2 because it does answer the prompt, but it's not very interesting yet. A level 3 would be that something shows thoughtfulness, it's realistic, you get a little bit of an idea of why something was so important to the writer. That would give a level 3. And I think the really big thing for level 4 is, does the scholar portray how important the experience, how important their skill is to them? It's very thoughtful, it's very engaging, and the biggest thing is a level 4 should be, this was a very fun paper for me to read as a teacher. Again, because there's only 2, this is a little bit easier to average. So if you have, let's say, 2 3s, of course that would be a 3 and a 2, you would knock it down to a 2 because you always go with the lower amount. That's the way that TEA grades for STAR testing. If you have a 2 and a 4, you can average it to a 3. And then you would go up to the top of that scholar's paper and you would write in a level 3, or a level, whatever level that is, so a level 2, a level 3. The last one, again, is pretty simple to look through because there's only 3 indicators. And this one is their use of language and conventions. This has to do with word choice, sentence structure, and then just basic grammar. Again, sometimes this one is the one that really sticks out because you can tell very immediately if a scholar is not using good word choice or if their grammar is very minimally shown in their writing. So for the first row, you're really asking, how is their word choice? So word choice for a level 1 would really make it hard to read. For a level 2, it's there, but it's very limited. As a 5th grader, they're writing things like, I run fast. So they're really not showing you that they have a very robust word choice that would be grade level appropriate. A level 3 would show pretty effective word choice and a good amount of clarity. And a level 4 would be, does it come alive? Do they write with metaphors, similes? Are they using adjectives and adverbs that are not very commonly used, or that are very, very expressive and vivid to the writing that they're writing about? This would look like something, instead of I run fast, they could use a metaphor. I run as fast as a lightning bolt during a thunderstorm, or just something that really makes you understand how how is it coming alive? Like, can you really visualize their story? And so switching gears a little bit, then you'll look at sentence structure. I think this one is pretty self-explanatory. I think the biggest thing is, like, if it's simple, awkward, there's no control, meaning there's no periods, no punctuation, it should really be a 1, maybe a 2. A 3 is adequate, and then a 4 means that every sentence in that paper matters. Every single sentence has to do with getting to that end goal of explaining their story. And then the last row of the rubric would be around conventions. So is there correct spelling, capitalization, punctuation, grammar, and usage? You'll see that if the writer has no command over sentence boundaries or age-appropriate spelling, capitalization, punctuation, etc., it's a 1. A level 2 disrupts the flow. A level 3 is adequate, and there's not very many disruptions. And then a level 4 is that it's very consistent, and it does not detract at all from the clarity of the writing. Now, with that being said, if there is a word that a scholar uses that is like a high school level word, something that maybe a word like flabbergasted. Flabbergasted, if they misspell, maybe they leave out one of the B's in the flabber part of flabbergasted, that is no reason not to give a scholar a 4, because that's a step above their grade and age appropriate spelling. And they're really pushing this one up here, that's word choice. But if they are misspelling and not using punctuation that they should know by 5th grade, then it would be one of the lower ones. And again, for conventions, for that C part of their score, you would average the three, or pick the one that occurs the most. So a 2, 2, 4 would be a 2. A 1, 2, 3 would be a 2. A 2, 3, 4 would be a 3, and so on. And the last thing to note is the bottom right here shows how you should grade this in AWARE. You do not award 0 points. It would be at least 1 point, between 1 and 4 points. And you would give 1 point for the O, 1 point for organization, 1 point for ideas, and 1 score for organization, 1 score for ideas, and 1 score for the conventions when you do grade those. One tip that would be very helpful as you're looking through the rubric is to look through it with your grade level team, and that may help all of your grade level team understand exactly what each of the row means and how you're going to norm together. If you have any questions as you are grading this, or you're unsure what something means, or maybe you have a really difficult paper to grade, there is a discussion board posted underneath this norming video. You can post your question, maybe post that you would like someone else to help you look over that paper, and then the CTL or myself will be watching and responding to those discussion board questions. Thank you.